What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on the post-game show of the last preseason game of the 2023 NFL season. You got Caleb, JP, Quentin. What or how are the Chiefs going to make these cutdowns? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is probably the hardest one in recent history. What's your opinions?
I agree. When you look at this roster from top to bottom outside the starters, you're really kind of cutting hairs on guys you should keep and guys you should not keep. Coming from the last show, we talked about guys we thought were on the way out. I think when you look at it today, guys like McKinnon, it's shown. I'm sorry, not McKinnon. My apologies. Clyde. Unfortunately, there's no room here with other individuals who are just shown on the roster. Kind of looking down the list, you have some wide receivers that you might just want to put on injury IR so you don't deal with any issues from that standpoint. So you can keep others, but it just shows that you're just splitting hairs at this point, and you can't really keep everyone. You got to figure out what's the best guys, and you have to put them on practice squad. And the guys you have to put on practice squad, you have to figure out who do you want to keep as a practice squad protection. So it's really difficult. I don't know how they're going to do it, but come Tuesday, I can see several moves are going to happen. I think a trade or two could happen as well.
Yeah, what do you think, Quentin?
Man, we sort of talked about this, earlier in the year, post-draft, even pre-draft. We talked about how this team has a bunch of starters coming back, and so whoever you get, you can benefit them because they can be raw. You can develop them a little bit. You can go for high ceiling. You don't need any guys now. And on the flip side of it, we're now right before the season. We see the high ceiling for some of these guys, and it's going to be hard who you decide to take because there weren't a lot of spots open on this roster to begin with. And we're going to see who Kansas City decides to go with here at 4 o'clock on Tuesday is the final hour to cut. And if they decide to bring anybody else in, that gets cut from another team. So they're going to be on the bottom of the waiver wire, but it's going to be tough. They've got some big decisions moving in.
I agree. Some of the players that stood out today, we're going to go over really quick. This kid to me has just shown himself as starter material, and if not, he should be on a team somewhere starting. I hope they stash him on the practice squad as Amir Smith-Marset. The kid didn't stop. I don't know if you guys noticed, but everything he did was on point. He made it very clear that he belongs in the NFL. From his speed, his athleticism, just everything he did, he was just there. He was on point, open, ready to go. I've been impressed with him, but today he showed out. I think he had. Do you know his total stats?
Preseason, I think he had 294 yards. Sorry, I think like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think today he had over 100 yards though.
Yeah, 105 yards, I think. Yeah, on 4 receptions or something. It was really insane.
And a 45-yard touchdown.
Yeah, he's just. I don't know, man. He's rivaled a lot of guys that are supposed locks on this team to be on the 53. And I'm going to say it now. The whole Cornell Powell deal, the project's over. He's just not a fit for this team. He may be a fit for someone else, but he's not a fit for here.
I was going to say, it's been 3 years. He had a bad drop. It led to an interception. He had a couple good catches, but at the end of the day, you just throw him on the practice squad and go from there again if you want to. But on the cheese, it just hasn't broke through, and it just fortunately just didn't happen like that. They like to pick the receivers that had the best route running and stuff, and today it kind of looks sloppy at times. Especially on the interception, doing run the route to completion. And fortunately, there's other guys that showed up, and that's just the business of the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree with you. Who's on here? It says Chiefs. Who's this guy? New guy. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm glad you're on the show. If you have any questions, just spit them out. We will definitely get you answered. Who's your guys' guy? I just said who my guy was. I think he really put himself in a position to prove a spot for this 53. Who do you guys see that's going to be a really tough cut down?
I can go next. The guy I'm going to say is Halasi. or Halisi, I
Pelassi,
think
yeah.
it's Pelassi.
Yeah.
Great cornerback. I mean, with the we saw that I think it was Nick Jones, who some round pick, who was doing very well, ended up fracturing his hand, breaking some bones in his fingers as well. That guy has showed up and showed out in camp, and he has done a lot of great things. So from what we've seen over camp, he's had interceptions, some pass breakups. I think he's made a case to just make the practice, not the practice, to make the special team squad and then go up from there. And over time, we're going to see he's going to be able to move into maybe a starting role. Veach loves to have a deep cornerback room, and what we've seen, what he's been able to do these 3 preseason games, he's only gotten better and better and better. And I think as a whole, he might be able to get a starting position or maybe in a rotational piece by season's end.
Look,
I want to address this really quick
okay.
before you go to this. This is Jonesy. Jonesy is a hot sauce connoisseur. He made, and I'm going to say this because I want to see if I can figure out a way of selling this stuff. He made some phenomenal hot sauce and mailed it to me. And I got to tell you, it was friggin' great. Some of it made me cry a little, and I can handle some heat. I mean, I was tearing up some. But, man, that stuff was stupid. So hopefully we can figure out a way of getting that stuff on the market. It should be being sold. And I'm kind of a hot sauce connoisseur, and that stuff there was fire. Anyway, what's up, Jonesy? I'm glad you're on the show, brother. Okay. Quentin.
Back to regularly scheduled programming.
Back to regular scheduled programming.
Okay, so I think you're right, Caleb, especially the injury to Nick Jones, right? It gives you an opportunity to bring in another guy. We know that Dave Tobe has the last 2, 3, 4 roster spots are his. He gets the decision on who makes it and who doesn't. So you've got a guy, he had an open field tackle today that just looked good. He's a guy that I do think that in a pinch, he can play some pass coverage against some real NFL talent. So to me, excuse me, to me, he is a guy that can make the roster simply because he has shown up, shown out. This was a guy that nobody was talking about. And these are the sort of stories that you hear about. This is why we need preseason. This is why we need training camp, because these are the sort of guys that can slip through the cracks and end up on a roster. And if he progresses and continues to progress, this guy has a bright future ahead of him. Welcome to Kansas City, my man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, let's talk about these quarterbacks really quick. It's fairly obvious that Blaine Gabbert's going to be the backup. Shane had a really bad day. Now I understand that, he was pressured a lot. There was one sack that he took that they just left the middle wide open, the defensive line for some reason. I don't know what they were thinking or what they were looking at, or the offensive line, I should say. And it was just wide open. I mean, he had no shot. I think he had about 1/10 of a second before he got put on his back. But honestly, I mean, Blaine Gabbert, he's just more experienced. I really think Buechele needs time to develop more. I don't know what he's been doing, but there's times he looks really good, and there's times that he doesn't, and more not that he doesn't. And Gabbert came out and played very well today. He had an interception, but he did well. But the one guy, wasn't him. Go ahead.
Now I said it wasn't his fault. It was a drop ball. I mean, one of the interceptions that Buechele threw was his fault. I mean, Thornhill read him like a book, but the second one was really a drop. Just guy that's dropped it. So
yeah. Hey, and you know what? Yeah. Now that you said that, Thornhill, going back to, all the controversy that was going on back in 21, he practiced a whole lot with those 3rd and 4th string guys. So he knows their tendencies very well, and he can read them very well because he practiced against them. That was, I know it was a statement for him as well, but regardless, I'm happy for Thornhill. I'm glad he's playing. He's making his money. He's a good player. He deserves to get paid. This kid, and I can't pronounce his name, whoever this 4th-string guy is that's fighting for a spot on this team right now, he always comes in at the end of the game. What's his name?
Chris. Was it Ola Duncan?
I think so.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah. That kid has so much potential. It's ridiculous. He has a little bit of Mahomes in him in certain tendencies. He has a little bit of Michael Vick in him. he has a little bit of Lamar Jackson in him. He makes very good decisions. I feel like he might end up, and Philip's saying that Shane might be gone. He might end up taking his spot.
And another thing, he's the practice squad quarterback, and they said he's done a very good job of basically imitating pretty much any quarterback. And that's what you need. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, scout team guy. So
yeah,
it's shown he can play. He understands what he's doing.
Yeah, he's good.
I'll say this about Shane Buechele. Today, he was going up against first strings too. So like the Browns played their first strings way longer than Kansas City did. So a little context there. I know that first interception, he got read like a book. That second interception, I think he still deserves some of the blame for that just because it was behind the guy, right? He did throw behind him, but if it touches your hand, you gotta catch the ball.
Yeah.
You're an NFL wide receiver. You got to catch the ball if it touches your hand, especially when you're 7 yards away from everybody, Rashee Rice. But
oh my God, I had to hear that one.
Look, Shane Buechele has come a long way. We've seen him in a couple of preseasons now. I was always certain that Blaine Gabbert was going to be the backup quarterback because if you just look at what Andy Reid does, he always gets a veteran backup. But Shane Buechele has come a long way. I have a feeling that they're going to continue to protect him, right? You don't keep a guy on your roster this long just for him to get picked off and go to another team. So this is a guy that maybe you try to do the whole New England thing where you sit him on the roster for a couple of years and he shows up. So now you can trade him away and try and get something. I think there are a couple of guys on this roster that you might be able to send away and get some background picks into the, third, fourth, seventh round picks, whatever. And you have an opportunity to do so, right? Heading into the season.
My question for you, Quentin, is what are some of the guys you think the Chiefs could trade or on the trade block right now until Tuesday?
So I do think I think that if you are really comfortable, to me, Clyde's on the trade block. He has been on the trade block for a while. I don't think you get anything for him, but I still think that you're trying to have those conversations with them. If you're feeling more comfortable with Chris or Buechele, one of those two, maybe there's a team that comes up and tries to offer you something. We know that the 49ers just traded Trey Lance to the Cowboys for, what was it, a third or fourth round pick?
Fourth round.
So maybe you can get something for one of your backup quarterbacks. Those are just a couple of thoughts off the top of my head. Any guy that you feel like you're not going to be able to stash away in your practice squad, or a guy your word's not going to clear waivers, and you think you can get literally anything for him, then I'm more than happy to send him away just because the depth on this roster is that deep. Like a Blake Bell, for instance. I'm not so sure Blake Bell has a future on this roster, but I'm sure there are plenty of teams that would like to have a passing or a blocking tight end that does have a history of catching balls. That does have value. So if you're, X team that is looking for a third string tight end, second string tight end, maybe you can get a fifth or sixth round pick for him.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about there, Reset. Please speak without BS. I don't know what that means, but I'll go along with your thing there. He said trade CEH for a fifth and a sixth. He won't get a fifth or a sixth. He just won't. I don't care if he was a first round draft pick or not. He won't get that. I don't think anybody will give you more than a seventh for him and maybe a future.
I think you can get a sixth.
I'd like to know who would. There may be somebody out there, but it's going to be tough. 6 would be the minimum. There's no way you get a fifth. He's not going to draw a fifth round. It's not going to happen. I agree with you, Quentin. I think if you can trade off, it would suck to trade off that for. How do you pronounce his name?
Chris Duncan.
That guy, Duncan. Yeah, I would hate to trade him off, just because he's a dynamic player. And I think he's got a bright future. He could be the backup to Mahomes fairly quickly within the next year or so. He could actually be the backup. We don't want to ever, we definitely don't want to be in a position where we have to be the San Francisco 49ers and be on our fourth-string quarterback at any point during this season. But he's a very good ball player, and I think he's got a lot of good talent. We need to, there's a lot of players that that are going to end up on other teams that are probably going to hurt us at some point. We know that. This team is so deep in so many areas, it's hard to figure out how they're going to make these cuts come Tuesday. But you got 16 roster or practice squad spots. You don't want to stash like a Cornell Powell on there. Why waste the spot when you've got players that are much better than him? To put on that spot, to take that spot on the practice squad. You got what, four IR spots? Is that correct?
I think so.
I think it's like 8.
Or maybe it's more.
Can you put that many on there now?
Yeah, I think the IR is much bigger than that.
Oh, maybe it is.
Well, time to use it.
Well, then I would use the hell out of it. I mean, that's 22 spots you can snag up, or 24 spots you could snag up and be done with it. So it's tough.
Yeah,
there was
8 spots.
8 spots. So there you go. I mean, that's huge. He said, I was with Quentin on that Rice play that broke my heart. I don't know why you would let one play get to you that bad. I mean, we've seen veterans do the same thing, so it's not a huge deal.
No, but, it touches your hand. You got to catch it.
It does.
It would have been for sure touchdown, too. No one was able to get
absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But, again, I mean, we've seen some of the best wide receivers in the league do the same thing. So, he caught a contested catch today for a touchdown that a lot of wide receivers couldn't have caught. And he's got phenomenal route running ability, which is something that you can't. I mean, it's teachable, but it's hard to teach. It's natural for him. He took some massive hits today, and I think that's part of the reason why they kept him in the game as long as they have, is because he's taken those hits, and they want to see how he will progress and be able to handle it. So far, he says he hasn't proven anybody wrong. There was another drop pass by a wide receiver, not Cornell Powell, but another one that should have been caught that was directly in his hands. Can't think of his name right now, but he didn't look that great. Cannot remember his name right now. He's like a guy that we probably never even really spoke of in the past, but he looked fairly decent a couple of times, and then again, that ball was directly at him. There was nobody around him, and he dropped it. The defensive side of the ball, I wasn't extremely impressed with the second string defensive line today. At the beginning, they kind of stepped it up a little bit, but to be down by the way, let's bring this up really quick. Talking about defense, Leo Chenal is going to be a replacement for Willie K. I mean, we've been talking about this, but that kid proved his worth again today. He's everywhere all the time. He's done it for 3 weeks. Every time there's a ball in his area, he's there. So what are your guys' thoughts on the defense this during this game?
Well, I'll go first. Context matters once again, right? You have a team, your second teams were going up against their first team. So context matters. Guys look good, especially when they were going up against equal talent, right? When our second team was going up against their second team, the game, you felt it. The game was starting to pick back up, right? The Chiefs, shut out the Browns for a good majority of the game once Deshaun Watson and their starting offensive line got out of the game. So this is a defense that, like I said, is very deep, especially at the linebacker position. I've been screaming that from the mountaintops. We've got 5 starting linebackers on this team.
We do.
And when you are kind of weak at the defensive line, in terms of depth there, you can help supplement that with depth at the corner and the linebacker spot, especially in a Spagnuolo system where you like to use safeties, corners, and linebackers to blitz and bring extra pressure. So I think this defense is going to be fine. It's, the world isn't going to be set on fire by it, I don't think. And I think that it's going to look bad at times. But that's a Steve Spagnuolo defense anyways.
Yep.
So
that is.
I didn't expect the line to be so, even though they were second stringers there at the beginning of the game, I didn't expect the defensive line to be so out of sorts, just given the fact that Joe Cullen coaches that defensive line. And to me, they felt a little out of sorts. And I understand they were playing their first string team, and I don't know I don't know their first string offensive line that well to say that they're great or not great or mediocre or anything else for that matter. I don't follow them that much. But it just seemed to me that they were out of sorts a little bit. But they did get it together, and they did okay. I mean, honestly, I don't think Deshaun Watson did that well today. For the entire time that he was in there, he should have done a whole lot better than he did. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like he didn't do that great.
No,
I think he did. I think he did good. He got set up a couple times nice in the red zone and things like that. I mean, he did as well against. I felt he was going to do against such second stringers. I mean, the Chiefs defense could only do so much. I mean, yeah, they got a fumble, they almost got another one, but once we saw the game was more even, where it was 2 versus 2s and 3 versus 3s and 4 versus 4s, we saw where our talent was more superior to them in every aspect of the game in many instances. And I think even with the starters, yeah, they probably would be able to march down the field. But the one thing I looking to this season is that Spags going to have to get very creative with not only the blitzes but the defensive line rotation, because we don't know if Chris Jones is coming back, and also Omanahu is going to be suspended for 6 games. So they're going to have to be very, very creative what they're going to do overall in order to make sure that they can get pressure, because you can't just let guys like Deshaun Watson or like a Jared Goff, these individuals who are half good, just sit back there and do whatever they want. It's just not going to work.
I agree with you. I just feel like Deshaun should have moved the ball a little smoother going against our second and third string guys, but I don't feel like he did.
I mean, the defense didn't do bad, but also that Deshaun and then the Browns were gifted great field position 2 times. So that's already 14 points right there. And then the other one where they drove. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me kind of what happened. I mean, when you have first and goal at the 5 and you throw it to Njoku and you have basically he's just towering over someone, that's just going to happen. Or if you're going your first string offensive line versus second or third string defensive line, of course they're going to bulldoze them over. I mean, that's just going to happen as well. So it's expected. It is what it is. But again, as I tweeted out, it's a preseason game. Calm down. It was 22-3. The Chiefs came back on 33-32. End of the day, it really doesn't matter the score of this game. We were more just evaluating the talent and see who has basically pulled ahead of each other in the race for the 2s and 3s.
I just thought I would see a little bit more out of Deshaun than I saw, and I mean, I'm glad I didn't. But
I mean, I personally thought he was good. I think he's going to be fine this season. I think the Browns could be a legitimate threat depending on how they play in the AFC. But I still think it's going to come down to the Chiefs, Bills, or Jacksonville. So the Browns need to prove it.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville is going to be a team we might see again in the playoffs.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe the AFC Championship game. So now it's officially CJ is out for the first 8 games. No, it's not officially. There's nothing official about it yet. He could come back Wednesday, from what I heard he might. So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. If it does happen, again, we have to fight through it, just like every other team would have to do. I just don't see him sitting out 8 games and losing that kind of money. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't. Go ahead, Clinton.
We talked about that earlier in the week. I don't see it happening. It's too expensive. It brings bad long-term implications for him, and he'll be back for week 1.
Yep, I agree. Does any other players stand out to you guys today that
Quentin has his?
I do. Now he's not a rookie, but he is new to the team. Michael Pirine. He was drafted by the Jets in 2020 in the 4th round. Man, he explosive, great pass coverage or a great pass blocking, can catch the ball out of the backfield. This is a guy that, we were giving Prince so much hype that I think he's another guy that slipped under the radar a little bit. And he's shown up in the preseason. And honestly, on the depth chart, to me, he's above even a guy like Clyde. And he's definitely beat out Prince for a spot on the 53. I think Prince has sort of given himself a practice squad spot because of his play. And Michael Pirine is the 4th running back on the roster. I don't know what else I can say about him besides the fact that for a guy that has been in the league for a few years and hasn't really found a home, he's very explosive.
I will say this. Pirine is McKinnon's replacement after this season. No matter what happens, he is his replacement. Yeah. Generic Prince is Clyde's replacement. Those guys, I feel like they're going to keep and try to make sure they're here ready to go. I feel like this, you could have a combination of Prince and P. Ryan being elevated and then also dropped and cut and then bring back and forth. If CH gets traded, that's what's going to happen, I feel like. Those guys are just more explosive. They're shown much more in these 3 preseason games that we've seen, unfortunately, at CH in a while. So
I love that McKinnon replacement idea. That's perfect. He has a very similar skill set, much younger. That's a great take by you, Caleb.
Thank you. Make sure to sign it 8/26/2023. So I'll be right in a year, a couple years from now.
I actually agree with you. He's solid all the way around. And McKinnon, I mean, of course, he looked great when he was out on the field again, like he always does. One guy said in a group chat today, I completely forget about McKinnon all the time, and I don't know how you could, but he is 32 years old. So I don't know that they're going to continue on with him since they've got a guy like P. Ryan that actually is basically a mimic of him. He mimics him in a lot of ways. He's a great run blocker, younger, like Quentin said. He's a great player all the way around. One of the better blocking running backs out there. He kind of reminds me a lot of McKinnon in many ways. So I agree with you. I think that's what's going to happen.
They're not letting him go. I feel like he has shown he could be McKinnon, but McKinnon 2.0.
Yeah,
I feel like so.
Yeah, I agree. He's a scat back is what he is. He's one of those guys that, McKinnon, replying to Reset, he said McKinnon is a wide back. Yeah, he's like one of those guys that's, you can put him in any position. He's gonna do well, and he knows the system very well. I think if this kid can learn the system, which it seems like he is, he could definitely be his replacement. So, anyone else stand out to you guys today?
Those are all my thoughts, mostly.
What about Boodle? Boodle got an interception. Nobody's going to say anything about it.
It happened so late in the game. I mean, it's like, does it really matter?
Yeah. I think Boodle
good for him, but
it is good for him. I would say he's been here for 2-3 seasons now. Really hasn't progressed. I don't know if he's a practice squad guy, but I just feel like Colossi has shown he is unfortunately better. So
absolutely. I just want to give the props to somebody. I mean, the poor kid, he's been on and off this team, cut, put back on, sat. At least he's out there trying. What's the tight end? That was who dropped that ball today. Was that tight end?
Matt Bushman?
No, he's another tight end that we have. Can't remember his name right now. Anyway, he dropped a wide open pass, and he shouldn't have. Bushman, I think, has an opportunity. He's got a skill set. I don't know about you guys. I think he has a skill set. He's probably going to be on the practice squad unless, for some reason, they decide to go with another tight end or, they do get rid of Bell. But he's got some talent. I think he's got it. He's raw. He's just a raw player. And I feel like he needs to learn the playbook, but I think he's pretty good. Yeah, it was Kendall Blanton. Yeah, that's who it was. And I don't know, is he a rookie? His name sounds very familiar to me.
It does sound familiar. He may have been here. I think he's been here the last couple years. Again, kind of like Boodle. Hasn't really made a place for himself, but has been on. Like the Chiefs have brought him back because they see something.
Yeah. And then, what I was kind of surprised about, and I don't know if you guys were, but Brett Veach in his little, when they brought him up and talked to him in the booth, I figured for sure there was going to be a question about Chris Jones. Did you guys hear him say anything about Chris Jones? Because I did not. I think that was one of the questions that could not ask. You do not ask that question because it's not something he's going to answer. But I don't know, man. This is going to be a really tough cut down for this team. I think it's the toughest one in recent memory. I don't know about you guys, but it's just they've drafted very well, and
it's a good problem to have.
It's a very good problem to have. Yeah, it's just hard when you have to cut them because you never know who they're going to end up with. Some of these guys, again, sometimes it doesn't matter because fitment is everything, and they may not fit within another system that you're going to be playing against. But I feel like we just have a really tough. This is going to be one of the toughest ones that we've had for a while. I don't know. There's so much talent, Um, oh, that's who it was. Jerry Blanton. Yeah, he played for the Chiefs for 7 seasons. That's why his name sounds familiar. So to me, anyway. I don't know about you guys, but that's why it sounds familiar to me. Um, I don't know what else we could say. You know, the guys came back. They fought hard again for the third straight week. Our second, third, and fourth team scored. So that says a lot. You know, I feel like Pacheco, you know, the little time he was in there, that was just to get him a little acclimated to playing. But he's fired up and ready to go. He reminds me so much of Mahomes in his. He's just fired up all the time for everybody. He's happy for everybody. You know, no matter who they are, he's just happy that they made a play, and he wants everybody. He's one of the guys that wants everybody to succeed. We got a pretty tough team this year. I think it's going to be tough for a lot of guys. Now, let's talk about one real quick thing before we go. Aaron Rodgers apparently is playing. Is that what I've heard?
That's what they say. He's going to play a little bit tonight.
He's going to play a little bit tonight. First time he's played this season in preseason at all. I don't know what the reason behind that was, why he didn't play those first 2 games. Did you guys hear anything as to why he didn't?
He's a veteran. There's really no reason for him to play at all, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
Buddies to join him.
What's that?
Especially since all of his buddies are playing with him.
Yeah,
that's he already knows everything, so there's really no reason.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some of the guys that he hadn't played with. You think he would have wanted to get a little acclimated in game time, but
he hasn't played in a preseason game since 2018.
Oh, okay.
It's not Rodgers for you then. Yeah. Well, new team, I would expect him to do it, I guess, more than anything. But it is what it is.
Not my monkey, not my circus.
Yeah, that's true. What do you guys think about the 4th-round trade for Trey Lance? I think it was terrible, but
they were already set on the room. He is good. He needs an opportunity somewhere else to grow and flourish. The 49ers are just too stacked at quarterback. Sam Darnold, honestly, when you take him, he is a better quarterback too. Trey Lance needs more time to develop. He will eventually get to play a game for Dallas this year. I feel like if not this year, most likely next year. And Jerry Jones doesn't care if it's going to cause controversy because he is trying to win. And Trey Lance gives you a good option of getting to that point if it gets to that. So it doesn't bother me. I think it's a good move overall.
I think it was bad for him. That's all.
Well, it was the best for he wanted to leave. He requested a trade Wednesday. It was the best for him. He wanted to leave. So, the 49ers got the best option. So it kind of worked out both those ways. So it's just kind of one of them things where it's like, I'm not for sure what they're going to do.
They're just not the greatest at developing.
The 49ers is what it does.
What's that?
It says it's a bad. They have a bad quarterback process in San Francisco.
They do.
You spend 3 first-round picks on a guy. You give him two starts, one in a monsoon, one to shatter his ankle, and then the next year you're trading him away for a 4th-round pick. Sure, you got a guy in the 7th round that you think could be your starter of the future, but I still think that shows bad process because even you as the 49ers skipped over him with your 3 6th-round picks before you decided, what the hell, we'll get this guy. Mm-hmm. So it shows bad quarterback process. And even if it ends up working out, they need to reevaluate how they look at the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how well it's going to work out for him because honestly, the Cowboys are not the greatest at developing talent in the quarterback room.
Well, at least you get to be somewhere where you get a new start.
He has a chance to play too. I'm telling you, Dak may not play all the games this year. So
that's a good point. He has.
Who's their backup though? So it's not him.
It's going to be him now because the other guys they have aren't good. That's the whole reason why is because he wanted to be. They said in report he requested a trade on Wednesday so he can have an opportunity to be a backup quarterback somewhere because he realizes he's not a starter right now. He needs to learn more.
Okay.
He wasn't going to get that chance with the 49ers because Sam Darnold, as terrible as he was with all these different teams, I knew he was a good quarterback. He just needed the right fit and system. The 49ers gives him the best chance of doing something great.
Well, the 49ers had a system that usually makes every quarterback look good, but I didn't hear that he was going to. So far, right now, he's set as the 3rd-string quarterback, so that's why I was kind of curious as to why, how he was going to move up. But if that's what's going to happen, then that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't know what else we got. I think we had a good game. Showed a lot of potential with everybody. We'll just have to see what comes down on Tuesday. And we're going to know our 53-man roster, and we're going to know who's going to be protected and who's going to be on the practice squad fairly quickly. So with that being said, we appreciate everybody for joining. We will be back on Tuesday to talk some more football and see where we're all at and who we have left. What is it, 4 p.m. Eastern time, correct?
I think so, 4 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. Eastern
3
time.
p.m. Central.
Yep. So we will talk to you guys on Tuesday, and we'll talk about who the Chiefs decided to keep and move on from there. Thank you guys for joining. Peace out.